name's Tom Payne. I'm the author of The Template of Time, How Time Patterns Reveal the Destiny of Nations. The Template of Time is a grid constructed, or matrix of dates, constructed of time patterns that are found in the Bible and that are extended from the life of Jesus. And we'll go into how this time pattern is constructed and show how it's revealing things that are going to occur in the near future, are likely to occur in the near future. For you see, history follows this template so consistently that enables you to forecast future outcomes. This would sound completely ludicrous were it not for the fact that several of the outcomes it has forecast have come true. Let's look at some of the reasons why you might want to give this theory at least some open-minded, skeptical review. First of all, what is a theory based on? You have all the theories look at the existing evidence, and they say, okay, the way that we explain this existing evidence is through this theory. And that's retrospective proof, which is what most every theory is based on. It's difficult to base a theory on what is yet to happen. But once you have this retrospective evidence proving a theory, it typically enables you to say, okay, based on this theory then, the following should occur, and we should look for this to occur in the future. And that's prospective proof of a theory's existence, or of a theory's validity. The Template of Time has both prospective and retrospective proof of its existence. Over 2,000 years of history conform to this time pattern. And had it not conformed to this time pattern in a very convincing way, I never would have published a book that said, based on this, it appears that this is going to occur. But it's very convincing because it's very thorough and complete, the way this history conforms to this model of time. So let's look at some of the predictions it's come up with that have since come true. Mubarak's ouster. I published the book, the first edition of the book, in June of 2010. And in that book, I announced that Mubarak would be out of power around the year 2010. It happened in February of 2011. So that prediction came true, and Mubarak seemed to be the safest of the dictators or autocrats in the Middle East. No one was predicting his exit. Then there was the Afghanistan situation. I looked at it, and I said, based on the template, it looks like we will be withdrawing from Afghanistan around the year 2014. I published the book. Shortly thereafter, NATO came out with a time schedule saying we will be leaving Afghanistan around the year 2014. In the year 2014, actually, is their prescribed the date that they're aiming for. There are some recent things that it's predicted that have since come true. It strongly suggested that President Obama would experience an assassination attempt. That has since happened. Someone has been arrested and charged for attempting to assassinate the president. According to my blog, if you follow it, you'll see that this may not be the only attempt. I pray it is, because no one was hurt, and the last thing we want for anyone is for them to come into harm. So pray for the president's safety and for the safety of his family. Whether you like him or not, you should be praying for our president. It also predicted the ouster of the Yemen's president, Saleh. Saleh was one of the clearest projections from this whole Arab Spring crisis that erupted. It looked virtually certain that he would go based on the template's time patterns. They attempted to assassinate him in June of this year and almost succeeded. He was treated for months in Saudi Arabia. He returned, but he could not remain in power, and so I think it was November of this year he finally left power and is no longer in power. So that is another prediction that came true. There are several predictions that are slated to occur very soon that will likely give additional indications that the template does exist, like providing more prospective evidence of its existence. The template is fairly simple. There are three puzzle pieces of time. One of them is the time cycle, and we are going to look at the time cycle and then the sequence that it creates. Time cycle is one of the puzzle pieces of the Bible that's taken primarily from the ages of the lifespans of the people in Genesis. So, for example, in this slide you can see the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They lived lives of 175 years, 180 years, and 147 years. Those become time cycles. We'll be looking at the 180-year time cycle in just a moment, Isaac's lifespan. But if you look at them, you can see how the time patterns in the Bible, these ages, seem to have some symbolic significance. I mean, look at the patriarchs and the way they're based on squared numbers. 5 squared, or 25 times 7, equals Abraham's lifespan of 175 years. 6 squared, or 36 times 5, equals Isaac's lifespan of 180 years. 7 squared times 3, or 49 times 3, is 147, or Jacob's lifespan. And when you can see how it's constructed, you have 5 squared, 6 squared, 7 squared, then 7, 5, 3. It's so orderly. It just seems unlikely that a God who is omniscient, all-knowing, would have allowed them to live this prescribed number of years just by accident and mistakenly letting this pattern unfold. There are other symbolic numbers in the Bible that are related to the ages of different people. Enoch, for example, he lived 365 years, or 1 year for every day of the year. That seems very unlikely to not be something symbolic. Now, let me interrupt by saying, I'm not saying that they didn't live this number of years, because God could make a fish live out of water for 1,000,000 years if he wants to. God has the power to do those sorts of things. So these people could have lived 969 years like Methuselah, or 365 years like Enoch. I've got no problem with that at all. I do think there's a symbolic value in their ages, though. And you look at the lifespan of Lamech, 777 years. Well, that's playing with the all-important number of 7, so it seems also to have some symbolic significance. Let's look at the sequence that we develop from the time cycles. It starts with a point of initiation. And the way you get this point of initiation, the initiation point of movements in history, is you extend the time cycles from 6 BC. Here we're looking at the 180-year time cycle. Since 6 BC is 6 years on the other side of the BC AD timeline, you have to subtract 6 from the time cycles to get the appropriate start date. So 180 years from 6 BC equals 174 AD. 180 years later, you get to 354 AD, the starting point of another historical movement. When you extend it 11 times, you get to 1974, because 11 times 180 is 1980. Subtract 6 from that. Now, why 6 BC? Well, the time cycles are extended from key moments in the life of Jesus. 6 BC is when Jesus was born, or approximately 6 BC, according to many scholars. The reason why they believe this date is because Herod the Great was responsible for the slaughter of the innocents in the Gospel of Matthew. Well, Herod died in 4 BC. Jesus had to have been born by 4 BC, therefore, more likely 5 BC or 6 BC. I settled on 6 BC because it fits the template best. So you have the 1980 years from 6 BC. You get the 1974 start point. Then you look at 26 AD, when he started his ministry as the Messiah, and you extend the time cycles from 26 AD. So 1980 plus 26 gets you to 2006. Now, I would ask for you to go to the website, www.thetemplateoftime.com, and look at the first chapter, which is there free of charge, and it'll go more into why these dates were chosen. So you have a starting point in history of a movement. It moves in a new direction, much like Jesus' life did when he started his ministry as the Messiah. This new direction achieves its culmination about 4 years later. So you extend the 1980 from 30 AD and you get 2010 AD, or around our time period at this moment. Remember the dates: 1974, 2006, 2010, And we'll see them again in the next slide. But basically, you have the template of time there. It's that simple. You have the starting point of a movement in history. About 32 years later, it moves in a new direction. About 4 years after that, the new direction achieves its culmination. Let's look at a sequence of events that has not yet been fulfilled, and it shows you the predictive character of the template, or how it can generate these forecasts. Okay, so around 1974, you have the 1973 Yom Kippur War. Israel was invaded by Egypt and Syria, and so there was a large contingent of Iraqi soldiers as well in that battle. They won. Israel won. You go fast forward 32 years later to see if around the year 2006 there was a new direction or a new impulse in this conflict that might point towards a culmination. And there was. Israel invaded Syrian airspace and bombed their nuclear facility in 2007, right around that cycle date of 2006. So, you have the start of a movement in history. It then takes a new direction. It's like it's moving along like this, and then it takes a new direction with the Israeli airstrike of the nuclear facility. That has yet to grow and achieve its fulfillment. New directions typically begin small, they grow, and then it's like a seed that bears fruit. There hasn't been an expanded type of conflict between Israel and Syria, but the template is clearly predicting that this will occur. And it's also predicting that it will be a multi-front war that Israel will experience, because they have also invaded Lebanon to take on Hezbollah in 2006, and Hamas, they invaded Gaza to take on them in 2008. None of these new directions have achieved their fulfillment. That gives you an idea of how this template is generating forecasts. There are numerous forecasts on the website, and it also has numerous examples of different processes, historical processes, that have followed this model of time to give you an idea of how it works. Please look into this. Go to my website, thetemplateoftime.com, or follow me on my blog. There's a large international group that's following my blog. It's I'm finding out that I've got people looking in on this thing from Macedonia, Latvia, South Korea, Indonesia, all over the place. And these countries are not involved in the following contests, which you can enter. If you live in the United States, you can enter this contest. If you guess the second largest country that's following my blog, and by second largest I mean the U.S. generates the most page views of my blog. The country that generates the second largest number of page views in my blog, if you guess that right, and you're the first one to guess it and send me an email, which will be time-stamped, then you will receive a free copy of the revised and expanded version of the Template of Time, and it'll be signed. So please join in the contest. I hope to see many emails, and look forward to hearing from some of you in the near future. Take care, and God bless you.